Hello YouTube and welcome to part 13. In today's video I want to just go ahead and show the rest of the API that I finished. Remember in the previous video we have only done API for the home and for the menu. So I went ahead and did the begin test activity, the about activity and the results activity. So if I go over here, uh, what I did was API for this screen here, API for this screen, um, and then there is the very first screen that you see when you just open the app with the begin test button. So I did that as well. So let's go through this kind of one by one and see how I did it, and hopefully you have attempted to do it on your own since the last video. Um, so let's go and check the um, about activity. So we have the about API here, and notice that we don't have any methods that do any clicks or um, get any info in here. All I have here is just a reference to my UI object, and in my UI object I have privacy policy, which is this link right here, and I have terms of use, and I have the logo, which is just this logo here. Now the about activity is actually an activity, right? So we need to remember how we created the interface for the activity, but we haven't actually implemented it anywhere. Well, let's do that right now. Let's implement this activity. Now we get this error. Let's click implement methods, and what we need to implement is wait to load method. Okay, and we're gonna do like the same principle. We're gonna wrap this into a try catch, and remember when we're going to be doing something like UI object, and let's wait for terms of use for about, I don't know, 10 seconds. And in our wait to appear method, let's take a look at it. We say that if timer expired and the element still is not visible, then we're going to throw assertion error. So if we go back to our about activity here, we are going to be catching assertion error here instead of no such element exists. And then we're going to throw new assertion, and we're going to give a more specific message here. So we're going to say about activity failed to load / open. And then in our logs, again, we're going to have an entry that to make sure if we look through the logs, we know what our program was doing. So let's say waiting for about activity. And then once we're done, once this does appear, we have to return, and we have to return this activity, right? Because we're waiting for it, and once we see this element, we know activity loaded, then we can return this activity. So the way we're going to return it, we're going to go to Android app, and we're going to reference our speed test. And actually, before I can do that, I got to go to my speed test, and I have to add it to the rest of this API here. So I'm going to say about, call it about equal new about. Now I can go back to my about, and I can reference my about page from here, and that's what I'm going to return. So I'm going to say return Android app speed test dot about. So that's it for this activity. Let's go to begin test activity, and this is sort of the same thing. Okay, we have to implement our activity interface here as well. But before we do that, let's take a look at what I have for the begin test. It's actually really simple activity. It has one button. So my API is just tap the begin test button, and if I go into my objects, all I have in there is just an object for the begin test button, nothing else. But we do need to implement activity in here, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go ahead and create this methods, and then we're gonna do a try catch as well. And again, we're catching assertion error. They can remove this return value for now, and then we're gonna throw assertion error. Whoops. Throw new assertion error, and then we're gonna say um, begin test activity fail to load / open. Okay, and then over here we're gonna log a message out as info, and we're gonna say waiting for begin test activity. Then we're gonna tap into a UI object, find the begin test button, and we're gonna wait for it to appear. Again, we'll wait for 10 seconds. And then once that's done, we're going to return this activity from Android app speed test, and then we have to add this activity to our speed test. So we're gonna go to our speed test class, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna say public begin test and let's just call it begin test equals new begin test. So now if I go back to my begin test class, I can reference this here, and that's it. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Return Android app speed test that begin test. Now there is one more thing. Oh, by the way, yeah, we need to change this object to actually to a begin test, and we gotta do the same thing over here as well. We're gonna just change that to about, so we can actually chain stuff afterwards. If you leave it as object, Java will not see the nested methods available in that class. Is going to see the methods available for the object return time, so that's not what we want. Let's see what else. I left some comments for me here about what to do. So when we tap begin test, we actually need to return home, right? Because we tapped begin test, the test starts, right? The test goes like this, then, and then basically we are returning to our home screen. So that's what we're going to return here. We're going to say home is our return type, and then we're going to go in here and we're going to say return Android dot app dot speed test dot home. And before we actually leave it at that, let's go to our home, because I do want to actually, instead of just returning home, I do want to say like wait to load. So let's actually do wait to load here. The method is not implemented yet, but well, actually, you know what? Not exactly correct. Let's not do wait to load. Let's do home. Let's do UI object, and let's find test again button, and let's do wait to appear on this element actually. So let's wait for like 120 seconds here. Okay. Wait for it to appear, and then we're going to return this guy. Okay, so I guess that's what we're gonna do. Like that. Okay. That looks right? I think so. One thing we can do here, if element did not appear, we can actually catch. We can catch assertion error here and throw a new one. The only assertion error that we can catch in here is from the wait to appear call we have over here. So in that case, we can say speed test failed to complete within 120 seconds. Alright, so let's go to our home and see if we need to change anything here. And home is an activity as well, so let's implement activity interface here as well. Add the wait to load method. And let's go ahead and implement this one. Try, catch, and we're looking for assertion. Then we're going to throw another assertion error. And we're going to say home activity fail to load / open. Otherwise, we're going to output a log in here. And we're going to say waiting for home activity. And in the home activity, let's wait for precisely for our test again button. And let's wait for about 10 seconds. And then we're going to return Android app speed test home. Alright. Then we have this click on test again button, which also returns home. And I just wanted to replace the return type in here because in the previous video I did return this, but we should just do, stay consistent and return it this way, android.app speed test.home. Alright, so let's remove this comment. Now let's see menu. Okay, we actually have implemented activities that we can return in our menu class at this point, so we can change the void return types to some sort of return type. And when we click speed test, right, when we click speed test, we are returned to our home activity. So we can go ahead and change this to home, and that will be from the speed test. And then we can go ahead and return. I can just copy and paste this in here. So we're returning home. And then when I tap the results, I can actually return results. Oh, by the way, when I tap the speed test home, I do want to wait for this page to load. Okay, and I guess I forgot to change the return type here, so we're gonna go back to our home and change the return type to home. Okay, and now we should have no error here. And remember, basically what happens if I went to the results activity, okay, if I'm at results activity and I click speed test, excuse me, I will wait for 10 seconds for this page to load. And the speed test is not necessarily running, so I'm just waiting for 10 seconds for this button to appear. And I'm kind of assuming that if I'm going to results, or from results to speed test, that my speed test is not currently running. So that assumption is made in this method, wait to load, because I'm only waiting for 10 seconds. Let's go back to our menu class and let's add return here, and this is going to be for results, which we haven't actually implemented, or that we haven't added to our API in the speed test class, but it's also going to be results that wait to load. And let's go implement this. So we're going to go to our speed test, and I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to declare it as public, and then I'm going to reference my results. Just call it results equal new results. And now if I go to my results, I have created a method for the API here. So you can see, like, let me show you what I mean by this method. So in this activity, we can basically sort stuff, right? I can click this button or this button or this button, and it will sort the data accordingly. So basically, instead of making like 5 different methods, I just put it all into one method, and it takes a parameter uh, basically by what I want to sort it by, right? So I can say sort by and type in type as a string here, and and I cast my sort type to lowercase, and then I compare it to a lowercase here, just to make it a little bit more bulletproof. Okay, so the results is also an activity, so let's implement the activity interface here. And we're going to do the same thing, wrap it in try catch, catching assertion error, changing assertion error to a more meaningful message. So we're going to say results activity fail to load or open. And then here we're going to add our log line. Say waiting for results activity can't type it all. Activity. Okay, we got it. Now we're gonna tap into our UI object and we're going to wait for the, do we have a logo here? We do have a logo. Let's see, but the logo doesn't change anywhere. Okay, what are we gonna wait for? We can wait for the results over here for the for this little results thing. So let's do that. Let's call the label and wait to appear. Was it 10 seconds? Let's just be consistent and do 10 seconds across the board. And at that point, we're going to return our Android app speed test results. Okay, that's what we're gonna return. You want to make sure you don't actually do have a recursive call here, because sometimes you may do something like this, and that's not good. Don't do this. This is bad. Let's change the return type here to results and remove this wait to load. One more thing left to do over here. I left a note to myself to replace the return type. So let's go ahead and replace the return type over here. Basically, it's going to be the same thing we returned up here. And let's see, I think that's all. Let's just go ahead and take a look at the results UI object and see what I did here, because this one is actually meaty, much meatier than the previous one. So basically, I have a logo here. I have an object that's referencing the logo. I have an object referencing the results, this label, referencing this tools button, and then the sorting buttons, right? I have sort by type, sort by type, sort by time, sort by download, upload, and ping. And I think that's it. That's it for this activity. And then I just have one API method here to sort by. Another one, another useful one would be to get the number of results from this label. So just like get text on this label would be useful. And I think we're done. Let's just double. Oh, actually, no, not quite. We haven't finished our menu. Right, we have finished this one. We have finished this one. And let's go ahead and do the settings. Actually, I haven't done the settings, so we can't do the settings. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do the settings because it contains some sensitive IP information on the activity, so I don't want to open it. So we'll skip this one, but go ahead and do implement this yourself. Do try to implement the settings API yourself. I, definitely recommend doing that yourself if you can do it. And you should be able to do it. I mean, we went through everything, so you guys should have no problem. If you do have a problem, please do leave a comment, and I will help you out. Instead of settings, though, let's go ahead and do the about over here. So when we click about, we want to return our about page. And now that we have a return type, we need to make sure we add a return over here. So we're going to return about, and we're actually going to wait for this to load. Okay. So before we wrap this up, I want to do one more thing, and I actually want to go to our runner, and I want to change this test case and run this test case real quick to see what it's going to look like. Okay, because we have created API and we can make this code here look much prettier now. So for starters, let's just leave it in here. So first thing we are going to do, we're going to enable our logging for info. Then we're going to create a driver in try catch, or in try finally, I'm sorry. Because we need to make sure when we're done with the test, we kill the driver, and we're going to call our driver manager here to kill the driver when we're done with the test. And then over here, we can reference our app, which is speed test, and the first thing we need to do is to open the app. Once we open the app, what we want to do is say Android app speed test, and we are in home activity at that point. We're going to tap test again, and then we are going to, we can use my logger to log info out, and we can say ping. Our ping is going to equal to, we can cast this to home, say results. Home results. So our ping is going to be results dot get ping speed, and then we can do same thing for download and upload. Can change this to get download speed and change this to get the upload speed. So guys, I mean, check this out. Look at how little code we have to write now to do what we did here. And remember, this code was actually bigger before we implemented the driver manager. So now we can remove this, and can remove this as well. And let's run our code. Before I actually run it, let me start my Appium instance. Okay, and now let's run this and see what happens. I'm just gonna go to desktop from here, menu, whoops. So waiting for the driver to be created. It's installing the app right now. It did find my device, so that's good. Okay, tap test again. Alright, looks like everything's working. Right? Everything's working. So it started checking for devices in driver manager. It then created our driver. Then it opened the app. It tapped test again and then waited for test to finish. And here we see logs for our methods that get the ping, download, and the upload. And then over here we see our logs for the upload, download, and the ping speeds. So and then at the end it used driver manager to kill the Android driver. So looks like our API is working, guys. Congratulations. If you got this far, very good job, guys. I know I did not walk through creating this API on the video. I just kind of explained, but I hope you guys can implement this API yourself. The code is available on GitHub. Check out the description for the link. So if you do have trouble, you can look it up on GitHub and get the idea what to do there. So I appreciate you guys for watching these videos, and make sure to like them, subscribe if you haven't, and spread the word. Take care, guys.